Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of Free Agency Frenzy. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman here on the PHLY Eagles podcast. How you doing, ZB?
Doing great. Excited for the show. I'm looking at the thumbnail there of Ben VanSumeren. I'm thinking...
sometimes I just do that to make myself laugh.
It's like a Vegas bachelor party, where Friday and Friday you're real excited, right? Saturday, like you're still kind of going, and Sunday you're just... Oh, man, you're on fumes at that point, right? So
I'd like to hear more about the tales of your Vegas bachelor parties.
So we go from so if you look at the thumbnails from the shows on day one, we go from like your Saquon Barkley or Haason Reddick or whoever the top guys are, and now we're talking Ben VanSumeren. No disrespect to BVS, but
I mean, potentially
the
greatest linebacker in Eagles history.
Sure,
it's on the table.
Yeah, by default, almost.
Yeah, I would say that's one of my favorite thumbnails that we've had. I mean, that photo of Ben VanSumeren, like he looks like a Terminator with that arm, like the muscles on that bad boy.
He looks like you.
That's right. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the work the Eagles still have left to do. I was looking at the depth chart. There's this thing. How is it pronounced? Linebacker. I've never heard this before.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Julia loves your sense of humor, man. She's over there cracking up in the corner. I think you're referring to linebacker.
Oh, linebacker.
Linebacker.
Oh, interesting. I don't know much about this.
Like Chuck Ben-Eric and Jeremiah Trotter, Byron Evans.
Byron Evans, nice. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep going. Seth Joyner.
Obviously, the Eagles have work left to do at linebacker. It's the third day of free agency. They have a long time to address this, but we're going to talk about where they stand there. Maybe revisit some CJ Gardner-Johnson thoughts now that we have seen a little bit more of the contract details. You can read our grades on allphly.com if you are a diehard member.
I want to amend my grade for Devontae Parker.
Okay.
Our grading scale, you should read it, but we'll give it a tease. Our grading scale for this one was Eagles wide receivers. And I put Ruben Randall.
I thought that was a fair one.
Yeah, I think more apt is Miles Austin.
You know what? I almost put Miles Austin, except that Miles Austin was representative of a deeper rotting in the organization, whereas Devontae Parker, it's not. Miles Austin was like a sort of a nefarious representation of what had changed about the roster management, whereas Devontae Parker is not. They're not paying Devontae Parker anymore.
I do
think that's from a former accomplished wide receiver who was just on the roster. What is he doing here?
Yeah, I think Devontae Parker's more accomplished he is more accomplished than Ruben Randall was when the Eagles signed him. And I think in terms of the accomplishments and the age profile, Miles Austin's probably more apt to Devontae Parker. So I wanted to amend that grade. That was one at 11:53. I submitted it, and I should have thought a little more on that one.
Now, you unfortunately were still awake when I tweeted the grades out last night. That was a disappointment to me. I was hoping you were going to be sleeping.
Yeah, I didn't really get to catch up on the news of the day in the NFL and elsewhere, right?
Oh,
so
what's going on elsewhere?
Well, the world, I just want to know what's going on in the world, right?
Okay.
So, I
didn't know there was anything outside of football this week.
And I like to read, and so I was catching up on a little reading before I went to sleep, and so I kind of got in bed at 12:30, 12:45. Was looking at the phone and saw you tweeted that out.
What were you reading?
I was reading an article on Joe Biden's last campaign.
Okay.
Yes. I get a great Sunday newsletter from Don Van Natta Jr. It's called the Sunday Long Read. You should subscribe. Anyone should subscribe. And I kind of bookmark links in there to go back to at night during the week, stuff that I might have missed. And that was one of them.
It's a good bedtime reading. You get Sleepy Joe and you get...
You're talking politics, not me. Yeah.
All right, Zach. Let's talk about CJ Gardner-Johnson, what we learned since we spoke last night. Really a spirited conversation, and I want to walk back a little bit of it, but tell us the details on what we've learned, a little bit about the contract.
Yeah, that the up to was doing a lot of work there.
As expected.
Yeah, in terms of the guaranteed money, it's what? It's let me pull this up in terms of what has since come out. Do you have it off the top of your head?
No, I think. Well, I believe it was. It's like $10 million is all that's fully guaranteed.
Yeah. So thereabouts, and so that kind of shows you that that the Eagles are paying for this year, and there's upside there, and you like to see if the upside materializes. That's great, but this isn't a major commitment. But it is the age profile that they like, and so this could be someone who's here for the next 3 years, 4 years. Or it could be something where they cut their losses pretty quickly. Yeah.
And this does change the way I think about the signing. Now, as we talked about, I never believed it was going to be 3 for 33. That didn't make any sense given that it would have been more than they offered last year, and he's coming off a season in which he played 3 games. And if it is just $10 million and it's structured so that CJ Gardner-Johnson is incentivized, like he has to go out and earn his money by being on the field and accumulating whatever those
being productive
incentives are. That's the right way to do it. I think it's probably likely a 2-year deal, but there is an out if things do combust in year 1. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's obvious that the Eagles value CJ Gardner-Johnson more than the rest of the league does. Because they offered him the most money last year, even though Gardner-Johnson thought that it wasn't enough, and then he ended up taking less from the Lions for a 1-year deal, and then now they have offered him obviously the most in the market, and so they know him, they understand him. I think that the Sirianni part here is probably a major factor, how much he values that competitive zeal, as you put it. But it's worth noting, like, this is a very talented player in the prime of his career. And the rest of the league is not like knocking down. This is not a Xavier McKinney situation, right? The Eagles are really the team who is smitten with him and do not have a lot of competition like at paying him that much money.
And you mentioned the Nick Sirianni factor. There's something else I should point out, and you had this in your grade, and that's the Dom DeSandro factor. You would imagine Dom DeSandro, the team's director of team security, but more than that, he's almost like an amateur psychologist. Right? He has a good pulse on players, a good pulse on personalities, and he's been doing this for a long time. He's been around a lot of players, and for them to make an investment, whether it's in draft or free agency, he needs to be satisfied with what they're getting, or at least have a sense of what they're getting. And CJ Gardner-Johnson's someone who, when he came in last year, I think it's fair to say he was high maintenance to a degree. Right? Like, people in the locker room said that they had to get him.
He told the story himself. He came in like right away and tried to be sort of like, the king of the defensive back room, right? And sort of like held his head up high, and then they had to sort of bring him down to life. And he said that he appreciated that.
Exactly. And so there's that part of it. But I keep coming back to this. When he's on the field, he makes plays. And
no doubt about it. He is a fun player to watch on the field. Absolutely.
And so I like the swing for someone who improves your upside of playmaking ability, athleticism, and the competitive zeal, to use that term.
I also think that I don't think that they need necessarily more safeties, but I do think that it's clear that the way that the contract is structured, this is not prohibitive for continuing to add to the secondary in some manner.
Yeah, and it doesn't, because of his versatility, it doesn't inhibit the Sidney Brown development, right? And a matter of fact, you can view them as complementary players because you can play both, one in the slot, one deep. You can mix and match, and I think the versatility that CJ Gardner-Johnson presents. I know that was an appeal a year ago, or a year and a half at this point. And I still think that is part of the appeal now. He's someone who Howie Roseman's liked for a long time. The Eagles liked him coming out. The Eagles were...
this is the Florida guy, I guess. We said that he doesn't have that many Florida guys, but he does.
Yeah, so, and CJ Gardner-Johnson's a big Gator, so him and Howie can talk Gators together.
What do you think that conversation's like?
I bet it's a good one, right? They probably... share stories of their favorite Florida guys over the years.
Okay.
God bless you. That was joyous sneezing. Okay.
The other thing that I I don't know necessarily why I was so agitated last night.
Yeah, you were fired up. I watched
About
that
CJ
back.
Gardner-Johnson?
I was like, are you just trying to be like disagreeable with me for the sake of the show?
No, I do
feel real
still like
strongly on
I
that?
do take issue with like the narrative that like they missed him last year. This is why they're bringing him back. I don't think that that's a good way of doing business, but I also don't think that that's what they're doing. I think he does make sense for what they want. I do, however, I don't like the idea that, oh, what a grown-up thing for Howie Roseman to do to rectify a mistake. Like what growth that shows from him. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. Because what he has done is he has won the negotiation. Like they argued over the value last year. CJ Gardner-Johnson didn't think it was fair, so they didn't pay it. They came back a year later and they're paying him less money. And what happened is, in order to make like the agents look good, because they had, remember the agents tweeted out like the stuff about the negotiations last year. What they did is they allowed them to push out the narrative that this is a 3-year, $33 million deal, make them look good. But in reality, what has happened is like Howie Roseman has pantsed them in the negotiation. Well, essentially,
I think that's an overstatement there. I mean, it's not as if he's coming for the league minimum. He's making decent money. The Eagles are making an investment in him. I also do think, I disagree with you in terms of the maturity angle of it. Now maybe that's not the right term.
Maybe from CJ Gardner-Johnson, I'm willing to buy, but from Howie Roseman, like it doesn't matter to him that the guy went elsewhere, and now he has come crawling back, and they get the guy they wanted originally for like much less than they wanted, and it's structured in a way that works out for the team, where like if he earns the money, great. If not, fine.
This is like the plot of every rom-com, right? You break up, you see what life's like without each other, and then you come back for a harmonious union, right?
I would never watch a rom-com.
I mean, you don't need to exhibit this toxic masculinity here, okay? I enjoy a rom-com every now and then, right? So yeah, this is the plot of every one of those.
I don't really agree with that.
Well, not everyone. Okay. I mean, many of them.
There's an opening scene where Howie Roseman, drops his accounting books in the middle of the hallway, and he bumps heads with CJ Gardner-Johnson, and they look into each other's eyes and think, oh, this could be something.
What's your favorite rom-com? Why am I asking you that question? I should stay on topic for the show.
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm
knowing you, it's probably like some indie one that.
I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for a Love Actually.
I've never seen that one. Is it good?
Never seen Love Actually.
No.
Interesting.
Actually, I've never seen it. Yeah.
You don't believe in love?
Oh, I very much believe in love.
Okay. What's your favorite rom-com?
Probably The Breakup. I mean, Vince Vaughn cracks me up, and there was that scene in there.
So basically, the plot of every rom-com, by that you only mean The Breakup.
Well, no, because in The Breakup they didn't get back together. Yeah, I'm sorry, we're going off, but yeah, but the scene with the lemons in The Breakup, and then the scene when he's playing Madden on the couch, those are two all-timers. I was cracking up when I saw both of those.
I don't think I know the scene with the lemons.
When his girlfriend,
which one? This is Vince Vaughn
and Jennifer Aniston. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were having a dinner party, and she wanted him to get the lemons because they were like a decorative piece for. She wanted 9 lemons. He's like, what do you need 9 lemons for, right?
That does sound very funny.
Can the chat support me here? The Breakup. It's hilarious, right?
What do you need 9 lemons for?
Yeah,
Make some lemonade.
Well, no, because she wanted it for the centerpieces, and he was. Anyways, let's get back. I don't know why we're off the rails already. I did some planning for the show. I had some things I wanted to discuss. I shouldn't say actually. I always do planning, but I did planning for the show, and now we're talking about rom-coms in the first third of the show.
All right. Well, let's get back on track by talking about brew dogs, because a lot has changed over the years, Zach. But one thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. It was the original light beer, and to this day, it's still the best one. Miller Lite has more of the taste you want and less of the stuff you don't. Miller Lite keeps it simple, people. Undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. It's a light beer that tastes like beer. Less filling and only 96 calories, the original light beer since 1975. When you're sitting around the fire with a bunch of macho dudes talking about your favorite rom-coms, you want to be sucking them back, baby. And that's what Miller Lite offers. Times change, but you can always enjoy the great taste of Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY birds. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. You're not going to get better than that.
There's a lot of talk about the Eagles' cap space. One way that they're able to maneuver these deals is they treat it like having a mortgage. And if you're looking for a mortgage, there's one place you need to turn. Mortgage CS. Mortgage CS offers refinancing options, including rate and term refinances for a rate payment reduction or cash out refinances that tap into home equity, making it a smart choice for those with high interest debt or funding home projects or education. And the spring purchase market is almost here, and it's heating up quickly. It is here, as I know. My wife's in real estate. Many clients, especially first-time home buyers, are reaching out as they want to be ready for when the rates drop. But this is what everyone's doing. Given limited inventory and strong demand, competition it's going to be extremely fierce this year. So get in touch with Mortgage CS and ensure you will be able to stand out and make the strongest offer possible. Mortgage CS stands for Mortgage Concierge Services. It's white glove service. Mortgage CS is an independent mortgage broker based right here in Philadelphia. You get full control of the lenders that they work with. They're available 24/7, and Mortgage CS is licensed coast to coast in California, Colorado, D.C., Delaware, Florida, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Virginia, and Washington. So don't forget to spread the word to friends and family in these areas. Players are moving all over the country right now. They can contact Mortgage CS. Excuse me. We are here to educate and empower the clients. They want to help the clients obtain ultra-competitive rates, and they have exceptional customer service, 24/7 availability from two owners, Alec and Ben. They'll help you in a competitive market by calling the listing agents, reviewing offers, and highlighting your positive credentials and the stellar reputation. When you hear the word mortgage, think of Mortgage CS. Think of Ben and Alec. Save Ben's telephone number, 267-391-7425 on your phone. Email Ben at ben@mortgagecs.com. Call or text Ben at any time, day or night. Talk Philly sports if you want. You can check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to a credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information.
The tough thing about rom-coms is, like, where does the line...
Oh, God, we're still on rom-coms.
Like, would you call There's Something About Mary a rom-com? Would you call Bull Durham a rom-com?
Well, okay. I like both of those movies.
You're not answering the question.
Why I call them rom-coms?
Yeah, like to do those kind
That's
of...
the great thing about...
Would you call one of Julia's favorite movies, The Wedding Singer, a rom-com?
Yeah, that is a rom-com. Absolutely.
I like A Wedding Singer.
So does Julia.
Julia, where do you stand here?
On whether or not Wedding Singer is a rom-com?
Yeah, and what your favorite rom-com is.
I mean, I was thinking about this when you guys were going back and forth, and I think I would qualify Wedding Singer as a rom-com, and it is still indeed my favorite rom-com. I mean, it was my favorite movie.
I would put Wedding Singer over Love Actually.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah.
I've told a story before of About Time.
Never seen that one. What's it about?
That might be at the top of my list.
Is it about time?
It is literally about time.
Okay.
And the first time I watched it was on the flight back from our honeymoon. And you're always more liable to cry in a movie on a plane. Like, there have been scientific studies about this, because like you're sort of like held captive. And
is this really a thing?
Yeah, it is a thing. And Rachel was asleep next to me. It was a long flight, and I was not just crying. I was like just an absolute blubbery mess. Like, could barely catch my breath. I was crying so much at About Time. I think it would hit you. I think it would hit you too.
All right, I will watch it. I will give you one quick 30-second rom-com story, and then we'll circle back to the issue at hand. But this is probably on brand for me, so maybe I'm playing into a bit here. But when I was younger, like probably I'd have to look up the year. I would guess 10 years old. I see this movie trailer with these NBA players in it, and I wanted to see this movie. And my parents were like, "Why do you want to see this movie?" I was like, "It's about the NBA," and they kind of looked at me funny. And so I went to see Forget Paris. He
was a ref, right? Yeah. I remember that. I remember being hooked by the same thing.
Yeah,
in the
Billy
commercials.
Crystal's an NBA referee, and I can only. I mean, there was
That's so funny.
I remember the NBA parts and that Billy Crystal ate veal parmesan, and I wasn't very interested as much in the whole Paris angle of it, but it's probably one I can appreciate a little more now.
Okay, that's pretty good. I texted Rachel to see what her answer would be. She also said Love Actually.
Oh,
we gotta ask Emily.
That's why you guys are compatible. What's your favorite rom-com?
The creator of Love Actually is also the same as About Time.
Really? Mm-hmm. Wow. The man knows how to get to my heart.
Yep.
Or woman.
I am guessing Emily's is. I'm guessing it's Something Borrowed.
Something Borrowed. I don't know that.
No, she said okay. She said Crazy Rich Asians. And Something Borrowed.
Okay.
Boom, I knew both of
nice.
them.
Good for you.
Okay.
Would you call Groundhog Day a rom-com? Probably not. I think too
Probably
dark.
not. Okay.
Okay. How about Love and Basketball?
Just
obviously.
said this on air. Oh, well then I love that movie.
Would you call Silver Linings Playbook a rom-com?
I think we've exhausted the rom-com angles. Let's get so can I talk
are
about
the odds?
Cat's
What kind of odds would you give me on that one guy posting a comment underneath this video? It's the third day of free agency. I'm talking about rom-com for 10 minutes.
Well, you know what? I actually don't feel as bad about this because we're gonna do like 4 shows today, probably. You know, the Eagles are gonna trade.
We got 8 hours of content on football over the last 2 days.
The Eagles are gonna
take it easy.
The Eagles are gonna trade Josh Sweat at some point, and we're gonna do an emergency show. We did 3 shows yesterday, 3 shows the day before. Well, 3 shows the day before. In any event, so are we through with the CJ Gardner talk?
I think are we through with the rom-com talk?
No, well, we are.
Unless you have anything else on the bone on CJ.
No, well, I do want to see the contract details when they came out. I saw the Saquon Barkley contract details this morning, for instance, and I can tell you that I mean it is a hefty deal, right? There's $26 million guaranteed, and they're kind of locked in for 2 years on that. But it's not.
Tracer just going in on me on Love Actually. I know it's a problematic movie. This is a nostalgia thing.
But it's a strong deal for Saquon. It's a good deal but it's not this like 3-year staunch commitment. It's really 2 years, and then they're going to see. So, anyways, I thought we can debate whether that's good money to pay for a running back, but it is. If you look at a percentage of cap wise, and this is a point Joe Banner made, that the percentage of the cap is actually not that cumbersome relative. Like if you look at where the cap is, you look at what a running back contract was a year or 2 ago, it's actually not that cumbersome. And Joe thought it was a smart deal. And Joe's someone who in the past hasn't gone overboard with paying running backs.
Yeah, I think the fully guaranteed second year is the thing that could come back to bite them if this is in fact, somebody who is just at the end of his rope, and it's sort of like the James Bradbury situation from this year, and you can't get out of it.
That's a good point.
The reason that I am if somebody else in the league had signed Saquon Barkley to this deal, I would have said it was a bad deal.
Okay.
And the reason that I am more open to it with this Eagles team is because of the things we've talked about it, and this is a little bit of repeating myself, but their path to being Super Bowl relevant is having a top 3 offense, and I don't know where else this offseason they were going to be willing to add an upgrade like this. That was going to tangibly change the ceiling of the offense.
Yeah, this was to your point there, and I should also say I don't love paying this type of money for year 7 of a running back. But I do think Saquon Barkley is a top-of-the-league player, and as I stated when this deal was made, I don't object to paying blue-chip players. I don't object to paying A players A money. But as this was framed, I'm curious your thoughts on this before we get into the cap discussion. Would you rather Saquon Barkley at this price or Darnell Mooney at this price? Because it's essentially the same. Or not essentially the same. It's comparable.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably rather have Saquon and draft a wide receiver, but I would object to the false. I don't think that's would I rather have overpaid Xavier McKinney?
Sure.
and paid a running back less money, maybe. I mean, it's a spicy contract for Xavier McKinney, but I don't know. I might rather have done that. Or
well, let me stretch this conversation out. I mean, we weren't going on this way, but let's look at two positions that the Eagles don't historically value in this way. Would you rather pay this money to Patrick Queen or pay this money to Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, I was going to frame it that way too. It's a good question. I am skeptical of Patrick Queen paying him that much money. I don't think that I fully trust that he is like an elite linebacker because he hasn't shown it for more than 1 year. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I would probably rather do the Patrick Queen and have signed an okay running back or try to draft one, but I don't feel committed about that. I'm willing to go both ways.
Yeah, I like the idea of a 24-year-old, or he's turning 25, and there is projection there, right? Patrick Queen was not that player before Roquan Smith got there, and I think Saquon Barkley could be a better player with different players around him. I think we saw Patrick Queen play with one of the best linebackers in the NFL, but I also think that the Eagles have had extraordinary success running the ball without paying a guy $13 million at that position. I mean, they've been one of the top running offenses with DeAndre Swift, with Miles Sanders, right? And they haven't had that type of play at linebacker. So maybe the upside of what you can have as a team is higher if you pay a linebacker top of the league money, or it's not top of the league, but big money, I guess, relative to what you've paid compared to what you pay a running back big money compared to relative to what you paid. That said, if you're looking at the upside of the offense and you are on record saying that the Eagles' path to winning is with an elite offense, Saquon Barkley gives you a better path to an elite offense. I don't think Patrick Queen makes you an elite defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. Would you say that Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison are rom-coms?
I wouldn't say Happy Gilmore is, and I wouldn't even say Billy Madison is. I would call those more comedies with like romantic elements to it, but not romantic comedies.
Okay.
Like you're not going there for the romance part of it. You're going there for the comedy part.
But you sort of get sucked into it.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Can I talk about the cap for a second?
Please. And
so there's a lot of responses when some of these deals come out. Like the Eagles are wizards with the cap, right? And I agree. I think the Eagles do a real good job with contract structures. And as we've said on the show in the past and catching up those who are watching it, the Eagles view it like they're not afraid of dead money, and they're not afraid of spreading or pushing the cap hits into later years because their thinking is the cap is going to grow. So the analogy Howie Roseman has used in the past is if you are buying a house, if you have the opportunity to buy a house, would you pay the cash up front, or would you get a mortgage at a low interest rate and spread it over a period of time? That's how the Eagles approach it. But this notion that like the Eagles are wizards with the cap or something like that, everyone in the league is playing by the same rules. This isn't, and they all see the contracts, right? It's not as if the Eagles have proprietary information in terms of putting these contracts together. There's creative ways they build these contracts with voidable years and things of that nature, but other teams in the league could do it. If you want to know what the Eagles' competitive advantage is, at least in my opinion, and they have really smart people putting these contracts together, Jake Rosenberg, Bryce Johnston, they do a good job there in the building. But where the Eagles have their competitive advantage is in cash spending. And what I mean by that is the way you structure these is the way you can structure these deals this way is by putting big chunks of money in signing bonuses, spreading those signing bonuses over X amount of years. And when you have voidable years, it's longer than what the stated time of the contract is, but you're on the hook to pay that bonus pretty early on. Over the past 10 years in the NFL, the Eagles have had more cash money on spending than any team in the league. This was in a Mike Reese article. Mike Reese from ESPN, he's the Patriots writer. he was talking about how the Patriots were last in the league. The Eagles were first over the last 10 years. Last year, the Eagles were number 2 in the league, I believe, in cash spending. The cash spending is how they are able to do these because and the cap can be manipulated. Cash spending can't be manipulated, right? Cash spending is if you commit to paying this much in cash, that's what you're paying. And so the fact that the Eagles, and I suppose you can say starts at Jeffrey Lurie, right? Because he has to sign off on it. The fact that the Eagles are willing to pay this cash as opposed to doing kind of pay-as-you-go contracts allows them to structure things this way.
Yeah, and what you said at the end there is, I think, the key. Like, what makes them cap wizards, quote unquote, and what allows them to be able to manipulate the roster that way is Jeffrey Lurie. It's his willingness to pay money. Like, you know, the Raiders can't operate this way.
Yep.
The Patriots, even as you just said, can't operate.
Yep.
Like the Bengals can't operate this way because they have owners who are not willing to do
exactly.
that. The Colts can't operate this way. The Eagles are able to manipulate the roster this way and change those contracts around because Jeffrey Lurie is willing to pay the money.
Exactly. Well said. That's a more succinct way of putting it than I did. Just to fact check myself, Eagles were number 3 last year in cash spending. This was from the NFLPA's data. And then this was from the Mike Reese article that I cited on January 22nd. Over the last 10 years, the Patriots ranked last in the NFL in cash spending at $1.62 billion, according to ESPN's roster management system. The Philadelphia Eagles at $1.92 billion were tops in the league over that span. So there's no one way to do it, but the way the Eagles structure these contracts is because their ability and their willingness to be high in cash spending, because every team's dealing with the same cap. Not every team's dealing with the same cash.
Well, and if you want to be as smart with your money as the Eagles are, you should sign up for Rocket Money, because Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so that you can grow your savings. If you're looking at all of your subscriptions and you say, oh, wait a second, maybe I'm overpaying for James Bradbury over here. Can I call somebody to get that canceled and instead spend it on CJ Gardner-Johnson? Well, Rocket Money can't help you with that, but they can help you with a lot of other things. Rocket Money has full control over my subscriptions and a clear view of my expenses. I can see all of my subscriptions in one place, and if I see something I don't want, Rocket Money can help me cancel it with just a few taps. I love how the dashboard shows me this month's spending compared to last month, so I can clearly see my spending habits. Plus, they'll help me create a custom budget and help my spending on track. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is submit a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. They will deal with customer service for you. That alone is worth the price of admission. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY, rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
People are always asking what the best way to support our show is, and the answer is to become a PHLY diehard. The best part is there's a lot in it for you. When you become a diehard, you immediately get to choose a free shirt or hat of your choice from the PHLY locker, and you get another and there's a shirt or a hat every single year at renewal. You also instantly get access to the PHLY Discord Lounge to chat with other Philly sports fans away from all the BS on Twitter or X. After that, you unlock 20% off all merch and events for the entirety of your time as a member, and these are just some of the perks of being a PHLY diehard. It includes premium written content such as Bo's top 100 free agents, such as our grades that we're doing every day. Head over to allphly.com now and join the best sports fans in the city. And I'll also give a quick plug for some PHLY events, including tonight. There's the PHLY Hockey Diehards at the Wells Fargo Center. You can join Charlie and Bill as they check out the game tonight, and then follow along for our PHLY Phillies team. I believe they're down in I'm sorry, tomorrow. My days are all mixed up. The PHLY Die Hard event is tomorrow. Thank you, Julia. And the PHLY Phillies team, they're in Clearwater now. You can follow them for details on opening day. That will be hosted by Bet Parks Casino and Sportsbook.
A couple trades happening over the past couple minutes, Zach.
Oh, wow.
The Jets and Ravens. The Ravens sending Morgan Moses to the Jets for, I think, looked like a swap of 4th and a 6th.
Jeez.
And then the Texans sending Malik Collins to the San Francisco 49ers, the defensive tackle. Not necessarily implications for the Eagles there, but the league year is approaching. It starts at 4 o'clock. If the Eagles are going to find a deal for Josh Sweat and or Haason Reddick, you would imagine that news is going to break over the next couple hours. What do you think is going to happen?
I still think they trade Sweat. I don't think they're going to cut him. I would be critical of their roster management if they cut Josh Sweat, and because I like the Bryce Huff signing. I've said that, but I don't know if there's a big gain by cutting Sweat and adding Bryce Huff. At that point, I looked at it like the asset value you're getting in return for Sweat is part of the appeal of bringing in Huff. So that would be a bad move if they were to cut him. I think they trade him, maybe not a 2nd, but let's say they get a 3rd and a 5th. Okay. But I think they need to get something for Josh Sweat. They can't cut him for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be more to the story here. If they're actually willing to just release him, that would be bizarre. And I can't imagine that would be worth it.
No, I agree.
Okay, let's talk linebacker.
Yes.
Because as it stands, the Eagles have not made a move there, and most of the market has committed elsewhere. Here are the free agents who are still available at linebacker. Bobby Wagner, 34 years old. Devin White, 26. Cody Barton, ya boy, 28. Jerome Baker, 28, although he is visiting the Titans today. Tyrell Dodson from the Buffalo Bills, 26. Josh Woods from the Arizona Cardinals, 28. Your boy Isaiah Simmons, 26. Devin Bush, who was with the Seahawks last year, another first-round bust, 26. And then Akeem Davis Gaither, who was just a special teams player, but was if you will remember, the linebacker taken after Davion Taylor in that 2020 draft. He's 27, doesn't have starting experience. Are any of those guys moving the needle for you as a difference-making linebacker other than maybe Jerome Baker?
No, is the answer. And I understand the Eagles have valuations, and they try to stick to their valuations. Clearly, they haven't valued the linebackers the way the market has here, because they can certainly offer opportunity, right? This is going to be a problem. And now, I know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Howie Roseman, if he was sitting in this room, he would say, Zach, I tell you, we talk about this every year. The roster building does not end on the 3rd day of free agency. There's ways to upgrade your roster in the middle of the year, in the middle of the offseason, around draft and training camp. We were critical of safety at one point 2 years ago. They traded for C.J. Gardner-Johnson before the season. We were critical of corner in 2017. They traded for Ronald Darby during training camp. We were critical of running back in 2017. They add LeGarrette Blount after the draft, and they add Jay Ajayi during the season. So there's different. It's not limited to the pressure point of the first few days of free agency, but you also can't just count on major contributor being available. What you have to do is you have to have some of these contingencies, and I imagine that's what they're dealing with right now.
Right. We have not even begun really to climb the mountain of getting to even week 1, let alone in-season additions. But if you just survey the landscape, I'm trying to find who could be a legitimate trade target for them, guys who fit the last year of their deal. There are 3 guys who sort of make sense. I have already talked about Ernest Jones with the Rams. If the Rams are not going to extend him, maybe they could make him part of a deal. Pete Werner with the New Orleans Saints is a possibility, but I don't imagine them trading him because they're not the kind of team that sort of does that. C.J. Gardner-Johnson aside. And then Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah from the Cleveland Browns, they seem to like him too.
He's a big-time player for them.
like Ernest Jones is the one who makes sense to me, and then you're talking about like just sort of older guys who can be patch fillers. And the other complicating thing here is you would say, okay, well, like let's see what the draft does, and absolutely that's true. And I have made the case that the Eagles should have taken more late round, like day 3 shots at linebacker over the past few years, but it is also a position like more than most where you can't really count on young guys contributing on defense at linebacker. It's a position that takes some time and some seasoning, and that's why like the second contract guys often outperform the rookie guys there, which is the opposite of running back. And so if you were making an agnostic case without having an opinion on Saquon Barkley, and you said you're spending $13 million on a running back, but you're going to draft a linebacker, you should do it reverse. I would agree with that. That's like divorcing Saquon from the conversation. It's a little bit silly to talk about this as if the Eagles have made a decision here when this is just in the middle of a moment and they're going to do something at the position. But I am a little bit worried about like counting on Nakobe Dean, who is coming off of 2 Liz Franks, as Josh Tolentino told us, and expecting him to be a major factor. I think they know that. I think they're going in clear-headed about that. And if it is the case that it's like Nakobe Dean and Zach Cunningham week 1, that would be concerning. But at the same time, if you think that you have put, let's say they add another safety instead, right? And they have made the secondary such that the linebackers, there's less asked of them, and the defensive line should be able to get after things. I think that's okay. I don't generally disagree with the way that the Eagles value the linebacker position, but in this moment in time, yeah, it looks like they've got some work to do.
They definitely have some work to do. They can't just say, all right, the back end's what it is, the front's what it is, and they can get by in the middle. Like they need more than Nakobe Dean, Ben VanSumeren, and they can't just wait for the draft. It's not like a loaded draft either. A name that I wanted to throw out to you is David Long Jr. with the Dolphins. The Dolphins have signed 2 inside linebackers this week.
Interesting.
Jordan Brooks and Anthony Walker. David Long, from reports, I wasn't like, I haven't studied David Long, but from reports, had a strong year last year for Vic Fangio. I mean, I saw written articles there saying that he was like the underrated player on the Dolphins defense. They signed him last year to a 2-year, $10 million deal, I believe. You wonder
he's a tape cruncher favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. So you wonder if that's a move they can make, just because the Dolphins signed 2 guys and they have Channing Tindall, who is a former 3rd-round pick.
That makes sense.
It would surprise me, of the players you mentioned, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, again, Joker. I'll just say the Joker. He's the one who I like the most. He was a real valuable player for that Browns team last year. The Browns have lost 2 linebackers. They brought in Jordan Hicks, but I think that's a key player for them. The only question you would say is the Browns are tight against the cap as it is, and he's going to command big money. But the Browns are going for it this year too, so I don't see them moving on from him unless they have to.
Are there guys you like in the draft? I know you've done your...
Yeah, there are guys. I like Junior Colson from Michigan. I think that he's someone who can really help you. I know that Eagles fans are going to be into Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Hopefully, we can talk to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. this spring on this show. That'd be great. The player who's probably the most electric is Edgerrin Cooper from Texas A&M. You're looking at him probably 2nd round. You'd probably have to trade up. I think Junior Colson's the one, and then the name you're going to hear quite a bit. And this is probably a player that like makes a lot of, like, if you watch the film, we look at the measurables, you're really going to like him, and that's Peyton Wilson from North Carolina State.
Looks like Dallas Goedert.
He looks a lot like Dallas Goedert, eerily so.
Yes.
Peyton Wilson has some injury concerns.
He's an old injured guy.
Yes. But he was like the best linebacker in college football last year in terms of like the awards. He was really productive at NC State. He tested extraordinarily well. He has good size. So there's a lot to like there, but there are injury questions.
Okay. What do you think the next thing we're going to hear from the Eagles is?
Wait, I just want to add this too. And he was, I'm not just saying this because he was the thumbnail One thing I did hear during the season is that the Eagles like Ben VanSumeren. Now, you don't want that to be. I see your face as you say this. The other listeners can't see Bo rolling his eyes. Ben VanSumeren, someone who was impressing them on practice squad. They signed him to the active roster. He's on the roster going into next season. He wasn't like a futures deal guy. He's actually on the roster. But I'm not relying on Nakobe Dean and Ben VanSumeren. I'm looking at that as gravy.
He's a poor fake smile for Christian Ellis.
And what you're hoping, like the best case scenario for Ben VanSumeren is that he takes the TJ Edwards track, and that by
I don't even wouldn't think that's a reasonable best case.
No,
I think
like,
the best case scenario is he's Kamu Grugier-Hill.
Okay, well, so if that's the best case, the Eagles need to upgrade. Yeah.
Kamu Grugier-Hill.
I like Kamu.
He was
always
the
nice guy.
will.
Here we have a super chat.
Was the will.
Talk about how much Devin White sucks. Gavin,
Jeez,
what
touch.
did Devin White do to you, man? I mean,
listen, I can sort of talk myself into Devin White, because he's a playmaker. The numbers show that he was like a very good blitzer. And if you're just talking about guys getting better over the course of their NFL careers at that position, certainly he has like the athletic ability to do that. And he's still very young. But yeah, I think you're going in very eyes open about this is a guy who has a reputation for freelancing and probably is not super dependable, but it would depend on the price. I wouldn't like crush them for signing him for $5 million.
You've compared him to Ernie Sims.
Yes, I have. Yeah. I think that's probably about right.
Another high draft pick.
Yes.
Who the Eagles brought in.
Shark in the water,
contract, baby. And did not materialize.
You don't have anything to say about Devin White? Feels like your kind of guy.
I'm trying to show that I know something about football and not just rely on big names in the draft. Look, Devin White, if you watch the highlight reel, then you say, oh man, like he can make highlight worthy plays, but on a down the down basis, a consistent basis, he hasn't done that. That's why Tampa Bay is letting him go. Like I saw a quote from Jason Lite, the general manager of the Bucs, and he was talking about how you could throw they need to throw a boat parade if they can keep like these guys, and they've hit a certain number of guys. And I don't think Devin White was on that list. So if a team's willing to move on from a guy who they drafted, number 5 overall? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, number 5 overall, and they won a Super Bowl with that probably says something. So I see Matt in the chat says he's fast, that has pedigree. ZB loved him coming out. I mean, look, I get it. I will wear that joke, and I'm self-effacing in that regard. But when you're the number 5 pick in the draft, like a lot of people liked you coming out. So the league liked Devin White coming out. I would not have spent the 5th overall pick on Devin White, but he is wearing a Super Bowl ring right now. Not because of him, but he was a part of that.
So is
I also remember he rode horses.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Him and Ed Oliver are the 2 horse riding players that stick out in my mind.
Okay, I like that.
Horseback riders. He used to ride a horseback through LSU's campus. Ride a horse through LSU's campus. Yes, I can probably.
Is that allowed?
I mean, when you're a star on LSU, so. You could probably.
Hey, what'd you make of your boy Nick Saban? Standing up there next to Ted Cruz and throwing all of college athletics under the bus, saying all of a sudden, and now it's about the money when he's been about the money for so long anyway.
I mean, look, I get that there's complications now for college sports coaching. I think it's about time that players are getting some of the money that they're
give me a
some of the revenue
Saban.
That they're generating.
Everything I believed in for my entire career is.
I think it's more nuanced than like it's. I mean, there is nuance associated with it. I'm not an expert on this, but like from what I basically understand, there's this big push to unionize college sports. Or I saw Dartmouth do it, for instance. Right, it was Dartmouth.
That's right.
Some of the complicating factors there, and I could be wrong, but from what I understand is that if they're then employees, then There are Title IX ramifications. Football teams basically fund non-revenue sports at a lot of these schools, and if you look at the Olympic movement in the United States, a big part of it's been the growth of non-revenue sports, in part because of the revenue generated from football. So I think college sports as we know it, it's one of the great things about it is the non-revenue sports and the opportunities for non-football athletes. And a lot of these athletic departments are funded by the football program. So you don't want to see the end of college football as we know it there, but there needs to be a way that college athletes or that college football players can have a piece of the revenue that's being generated without like college football essentially going by the wayside. But to answer your question succinctly, yeah, I mean, I think Nick Saban's benefited from this system quite a bit.
I think you did a very good job of explaining what like the nuance there and why it is a little bit complicated. But for Nick Saban to sit up there and be like, "Oh my gosh, my poor like human development passion of the past 30 years gave me a break."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and by the way, all these coaches are
right.
Like they benefited from the system. You know, Tony Alford, the running backs coach for Ohio State, he's leaving today to go to Michigan. Right? If the running backs coach can do it, then why can't the running back do it? You know. So
yeah, exactly. All right, closing in here on the hour, Zach. Anything else that you want to talk about? You did all your prep for the show. Anything else that is in your notes?
Yeah, so I am curious when you look. I did want to have that Patrick Queen conversation with you, which we had, where you would spend those resources. But when you look at the moves that the Eagles have made to this point, okay, what's like and when you look at the deals that have happened, what's the one that they missed, or the one that you would say as you look at this, now that you see what the prices are, now that you see how the Eagles have spent their money, like I wish they had, if you were Howie, I wish we would have gotten into that, or that's a price I could have played at, or if we had our plan a little differently, we could have gone after that and done this.
That's a good question. I mean, like the McKinney thing is it is very expensive, and so it's hard for me to fault them for not going for that. I mean, I know that you might make the case for just doing the Brian Burns deal,
exactly,
instead of signing Bryce Huff. I don't mind not doing that. I mean, it would probably just be like picking one of the middle linebacker, like the middle range linebackers, and having paid for one of those guys. But I think patience is probably a smart thing there. I don't know. I don't know that there's anything that jumps out at me as like, oh, I can't believe they missed out on that thing. What about you?
Yeah, I think the Brian Burns trade is one that I would have gone on if I were the Eagles. Even at $30 million a year, I think that's what the rate's going to be for a player like Brian Burns. That contract doesn't scare me, and I understand the Eagles don't have a second-round pick near the Giants pick, but I would have traded number 22. And I need to be consistent. I wrote this last week. I would have traded number 22 and paid $30 million a year for Brian Burns and not signed Bryce Huff. I think Brian Burns is a building block player, and that's the path that I would have gone. And I think it's gonna be tough in the NFC East, seeing Brian Burns on one side, Kayvon Thibodeau on the other, Dexter Lawrence in the middle. Like, we can make jokes about that offense, and that offense has concerns, but that front is going to give you a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay against the Giants, but yeah.
And then there was a small under the radar move that I really didn't see until I kind of went through stuff, and that was the Carlton Davis trade to the Lions. When you talk about cornerbacks,
that's an interesting one.
Was that one that you would want to get? Like the Lions need corners.
Yeah, I would have been interested in that.
Yeah,
potentially. But I think that corner is like, as we're looking at it, unless they're going to make a move for a big guy, which I think is on the table, I expect that to be one where they're looking at the draft specifically.
Okay. And are you expecting that to be the first round, or I
think one of the picks in the first two rounds.
First two rounds, I would agree there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have a long afternoon and evening of waiting around and getting ready to have some emergency pods. But I guess we can close up shop for this one, Zach.
Where do you see? So
after you slept on it, did you come to what?
I don't know where you're going with this. Go.
Well, no, I want to know if you've come to the good side of appreciating Devontae Parker.
Maybe I was a little harsh on that
with your SUV.
Yeah, I stand by what I said, and I wrote this. If you're looking for that big-bodied backup receiver, give me Donovan Peoples-Jones, right? Give me like a 25, 26-year-old who can be your wide receiver 4. This is like the Miles Austin signing to me. It's like, why are you adding a depth piece at that age at this point of his career? I understand. There's no
downside.
risk. There's no downside. I get it. It's just not appealing to me. Also, I do want to stand up for myself a little bit. I asked Emily, my wife, about the Barbie thing. And yeah, I brought this up. And she was actually on my side here. She was like, yeah, why would you go and see Barbie? And
You're a man.
No, not that. She said she went to see it with her friends. It's not a kid's movie. Like, I wouldn't take Sloan to see it. And it's not, if we went on like a date to see Barbie, that's one thing. But she went with her friends. I'm not going to she wouldn't expect me to go to the theater to see Barbie.
Well, she wouldn't expect you because she knows you.
No, it's not. It's not. Now, maybe on a rainy Sunday afternoon or something, we're sitting at home looking for something to watch. We can put on Barb. But she was like, no, I am on your... She takes your side a lot. But she was kind of on my side with this. She was like, why are you... why would you see Barbie? She saw it and said that. She's like, this is not a movie for you to go and see.
Okay. I think that's rolled into her knowing who you are.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think you paint the wrong picture of me on this show too. I'm not. Someone said Jake Elliott.
Yes, I had this and I wasn't going to cut off your Barbie conversation.
No, please do this.
But yes, the Eagles just put out that they have extended Jake Elliott, the kicker. So all the special teamers are locked up.
Good for Jake Elliott, man. I could tell you the whole Jake Elliott story about how he was picked out of the crowd at a high school pep rally, he was at a high school pep rally basically to kick a field goal. That was the start of it. The field goal, the coaches on the football team were trying to get him to come over, but he didn't want to play because it was tennis season. And he was such a good tennis player, and he agreed to do it. And as you've discussed, and as we've discussed, one of the best pound for pound athletes on the team, can play any sport it seems and do it well.
Adam Schefter says it is a 4-year, $24 million deal, and the $6 million average ties Elliott with Justin Tucker for the highest paid kicker in NFL history. Listen, if you got money to throw around, I guess that's fine.
The Eagles are taking care of all special teams business. Kickers are important, right? We've seen the consistency that he has. Yeah, I don't object to this.
Yeah, I will see how the contract is structured if there are outs, if for whatever reason he goes wayward. But yeah, I think I don't have a problem paying him like a very good kicker. He's a very good kicker.
He's now it's through the 2028 season.
Now Robin says you're like journalism Ken, so you should see it.
Okay, I promise you, I will see Barbie for the sake of the show. I called her on my way home the other day, so worried that it
really was just the revulsion, the initial reaction to the notion that you could possibly ever see Barbie. That was the thing that people latched onto.
I think you put me in a bad position on that one.
I don't think so. I just asked if you saw Barbie, and you're like, Barbie.
That was not. Oh, man. That was not my reaction. That was not my reaction. But yeah. Anyways, I want to stand up for myself on that one.
Okay. That wasn't necessarily like the greatest closing argument I've ever heard, but as long as Emily's got your back, that's what matters.
She definitely has my back on the Barbie conversation.
Okay. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. We'll probably talk to you in like 8 minutes, but whenever news happens, we will be here to have an emergency pod for you. And if not, we'll talk to you tomorrow at noon, but something tells me that that's unlikely. So for Zach and Julia, we thank you for listening. Congratulations to Jake Elliott. We will be back whenever it warrants. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.